Thank you. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for attending. Thank you for coming in. Just want to start like even though this isn't a regular Board of Selectmen's meeting, I'd like to start the way we always do with a pledge of allegiance. If you please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Vice Chairman Bob Manning asked me to read this announcement, and I wasn't going to do it, but this is important. Flu clinic is tomorrow. Abington residents and Abington employees. There's going to be 2 sessions, 9 to 11 a.m. at the Abington Senior Center, and from 6 to 8 at the Abington High School cafeteria. ID and insurance cards required, so that's something free for town residents, so thank you. Again, thank you all for attending this presentation of the Colonial Power Group. Originally, there was not going to be a Board of Selectmen's meeting tonight. It was just going to be the presentation, and we were going to sit in the audience. But after the response we've gotten and some of the concerns from the residents, I've asked the Board of Selectmen to attend, and we're still going to let the Colonial Power Group and the town manager take the bulk of the questions. But I just want to give a brief rundown, basically a timeline of how we got to where we are today. And then I'll turn it over to town manager Rick, who will introduce Mark from the Colonial Power Group. At that point, we'll open it up to and encourage questions, because frankly, as a board, we've been peppering Mark with questions every time he's come before us, and that's been 3 or 4 times. To start, honestly, usually when we make a decision, a vote up here, unfortunately, it costs us and the taxpayers money, as you're well aware. So personally, when we had the chance to actually lower rates for ourselves, as we all use electricity, and for the residents, I know I jumped on the chance, and we voted unanimously to endorse this program. So I just wanted to start with that. As you are well aware, the electric company was deregulated back in 1997. And that's probably, unfortunately, when those annoying phone calls started that we all get on our cell phone and our house phone, trying to sell us insurance. They have an important message about your insurance bill, that sort of stuff. In 1997, the Mass General laws enabling municipal aggregation, which aggregation is basically, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, please, Mark. It's basically towns getting together, an aggregate, a group of towns, to try to go out to get the lowest bid, I should say. And Mark's going to talk more about this. This is just a brief rundown of how we came to the decision. And in this case, I think we aggregated with 13 other towns, so there's 14 towns in this aggregate. Currently, across the state, 117 of the 312 towns are engaged in aggregation, and there's 39 cities, and most of them, I think, are already in an aggregate or aggregate. Abington's rate was a result of a bid process that culminated on September 21st. I believe they had to wait, and again, Mark will touch upon this, they had to wait until National Grid's price came out to try to get the best price, and it's effective beginning November 1st when National Grid's rate goes up. Colonial Power Group met with the Board of Selectmen on several occasions, and they were at the town meeting on June 6, 2016. So we've met with Mark at least 3 times, I think it was 4 times actually. And the way this whole process started was the town manager heard from other towns about this aggregate and how it was working out, and was giving the residents some better prices for electricity. So he recommended to us, and that started the whole ball rolling. We met with Mark initially, and I'm going to go over quickly what the Mass General Law says about how the process, because there's certain ways this process of aggregation has to take place. It's not something that we didn't invent the wheel. We're not on the cutting edge, unfortunately, of this. Over a third of the towns have already done it. But any municipality or group of municipalities acting together within the Commonwealth is hereby authorized to aggregate the electrical load of interested electricity consumers within its boundaries. So, as I said, this was formed in 1997. A town may initiate a process to aggregate electrical load upon authorization by a majority vote of town meeting or town council. So that's the first, this is actually the second step that happened, is at town meeting June 6, 2016. Mark was at the town meeting. We asked Mark to come, and I believe he had handouts for everyone there. Very little question about it. I'm not sure if people spoke to Mark after the meeting or during the meeting, but it was a unanimous vote that night. So that first step was done. Following adoption of aggregation through the votes specified above, such program shall allow any retail customer to opt out and choose any supplier or provider such retail customer wishes. The way the government, back in 1977, formed this whole aggregate is that you have to opt out. We didn't have a choice for this opt-out, opt-in sort of deal. So if you got something in the mail, that means that you are getting National Grid's basic service. From a personal point of view, I didn't get one in the mail, so I didn't see what you, and some people out there on TV, they may not have gotten one. And what that means is, more than likely, you are not getting basic service from National Grid. You may have another supplier. There's so many of them now. There's Constellation, Experian, Liberty, that sort of thing. So you may be paying less. I know I am on Experian or Sperian, I think, and I'm actually paying more. So I'm gonna opt in, whereas there's been a lot of talk about opting out. I'm gonna opt out, I'm actually gonna opt in because the rate is cheaper than what I'm paying. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I probably shouldn't say this on TV, but some of these companies that you deal with, and I'm gonna give you an example, are a little, what's the word, shady?
Shady.
Thank you. My mother lives at Leisure Woods in Rockland, and I don't think she's gonna watch it, so I don't wanna embarrass her, but she called me one day and said, there's two people on my couch, and did you know the electric rates are going up tomorrow? And I'm like, no, I didn't know that. So she said she didn't sign anything, but I pay her bills, and she signed on to a company called Liberty, and she's paying 15.5 cents a kilowatt hour. We're gonna pay 11. So needless to say, I called them right away and changed that. That's not right. So this is not what's happening here, but I just wanted to give you the example of the rates. You can pay crazy amounts and not know what you're doing. So let me get back to, I'm sorry, I'm kind of wandering a little bit, but the Mass General Law, it shall be the duty of the aggregated entity to fully inform participating ratepayers in advance of automatic enrollment that they are to be automatically enrolled, and that they have the right to opt out of the aggregated entity without penalty. That's the mailing that you received. National Grid, couple notes, and again, these guys are gonna tell you more about it. National Grid just distributes power. They mostly buy power from other companies. A lot of times, a lot of people don't even pay attention to their electric bill, so I'm sure you'll be paying more attention to it now. It's just one portion of your bill. There's two portions, the delivery service and the actual power. I think, did I miss anything, guys? And we'll open up to questions after Mark talks, and I actually have a microphone, so if you don't want to come up to the podium, by all means, I'm going to pull Sally Jesse Raphael. I'm going to come out with a microphone and ask you just your address, your name, your address, and the question. And the reason that I'm doing that is because I want people out there watching this on TV, and I'm going to ask cable to broadcast it several times a day. I want them to hear the questions, because everybody has a lot of questions. I actually encourage people on Facebook today to message me if they have questions, because I'll ask them on behalf of them. So, does anybody from the board have anything to add to that at all?
I don't.
No? Okay, then I'll go over to Rick.
Right, just so people are aware of the process, I'm going to introduce Mark Capadona, who's going to take you through most of this. Mark is a consultant. He is not a salesman. When this process began, a number of communities, following in line with a lot of other communities in southeastern Massachusetts and throughout the Commonwealth, got together, and a procurement was put together by Old Colony Planning Council. A lot of you are probably familiar with them. They are based out of Brockton. They have planning expertise in many different areas. They put together a procurement, and a group of us worked with them, and basically, I say worked with them, basically told them what we needed, and they put together a procurement to get expertise, and through a competitive bid process, they chose Colonial Power Group from a group of consultants throughout the region to essentially guide us through this process and ultimately be the consultant of choice to administer this program. So Mark Capadona is the partner with Colonial Power Group. He is not making, he is not a salesman of energy, so to speak. So he's not up here selling you something. He's going to get paid either way, so to speak. So when I introduced Mark Capadona as a partner with Colonial Power Group, I don't want you to think, he's got your hand in your pocket. That's not the way it works here. And as the chairman informed you, we're not cutting edge here. This is something that some communities have done. You may have heard of the Cape Light Compact, Cape Light. They've been doing this for many, many years successfully. A lot of cities have been doing this for a very long time, comparatively speaking. Some of the smaller communities haven't had the resources, the expertise to do this, and now it's kind of getting to the point where some communities may be starting to ask, well, why aren't we doing this? Town of Abington doesn't get anything out of this. We could have, one of the things that's available in the law is to put a surcharge on what goes on the bill so we could hire an energy manager. Well, we didn't do that. Be nice to have an energy manager, but that would be, we're not quite at the point where we could really use an energy manager, or could, in good faith, I'd say. I know I see someone from our energy committee looking at me saying, oh, I guess we could use an energy manager, but we didn't do that. We're not at that stage of the game where we think that's quite in the community's interest just yet. So, but we went through a competitive bid process. Colonial Power Group has done this with other communities and with other regions, groups of communities. We thought they were the best group to help about 14 communities that were part of this regional group through this process too. That's why we chose Colonial Power Group. So with regard to the specifics of aggregation and how this affects the bill, and how it, and the laws with regard to opting in or opting out, the rates versus basic service and how it impacts you and how it's impacted other groups. I think Mark is clearly the person to answer those questions, but if there's any administrative or bureaucratic questions, I'll be happy to do my best before Mark Capadona does his piece. And obviously throughout the evening, if anybody has questions, I'm sure Ken's not gonna mind you.
No, that's what we're here for, to get any,
Good.
I don't want anybody to leave with questions unanswered.
Oh,
so.
okay. Mark Capadona, Colonial Power Group.
Good evening. Thank you, Rick. Appreciate it. So I'm here tonight to talk to you about kind of where you've been, kind of where we are, and kind of where we will get to. Here to talk about municipal aggregation. I'm going to kind of hit the 800-pound gorilla in the room right out of the bat. It's an opt-out aggregation. What does that mean? That means that everyone is in the program until they opt out. So the way I look at this program, the town has brought me a choice that you haven't had in the past. So National Grid's rate, November 1st, is going to go to 12.672 cents per kilowatt hour. Let me just make sure I gave you the correct rate on that. Yeah, 12.673 cents a kilowatt hour.
As of when, Mark?
November 1st. So in years past, you would have not had any choice. You just would have gotten National Grid's basic service rate, and away you would have went. The town has got involved, and what they've gone is just out in the marketplace to see what they can get for a price for energy. The reason, as the select board chair said, we wanted to take a look at the marketplace after National Grid was out there. So, some towns now, they're a little bit more mature, they don't actually even wait for that. But I wanted to make sure, where it's a brand new program, we knew what National Grid's rate was compared to what the rate the town was going to receive. So the town has signed on for a 1-year contract with a company called Next Era. I don't know if people know the energy markets, but it's a very large company. They actually own Seabrook Power Plant. Florida Light and Power is kind of their parent company. This rate will be 11,057. So basically a 13% guaranteed savings over the next 6 months. Guaranteed savings, because National Grid's rate is going to be this. Now, how do we do that, right? National Grid has a bigger load, so forth and so on. National Grid has their hands tied. The towns do not. We can use the marketplace to our advantage. So that means we can go out at any point in time. If for some reason the manager didn't like the rate, he didn't have to take the rate. all we do is bring choices. No different than you're going to have. So when the bid date came, he made a decision. I'd like to do this. It's guaranteed savings for the next 6 months. What's going on with the capacity markets? I don't want to get too technical here. I just want to kind of keep it at a high level. Happy to answer any technical questions anyone has. But basically, energy is going to be high for the next 18 to 24 months due to these capacity issues that are coming. He decided to do something that saves people money, but all he did was bring you a choice. If your choice is to stay in the program, you don't need to do a thing. There'll be no change to service. So if you're currently on a low income rate, if you get a budget billing, automatic withdrawal, farm discount, any of those things, automatically they'll just stay in place. That's all on the distribution side of the bill. There's no change to any of those services. If you have a net metering contract, solar panels on your roof, still works the same way. No difference. But if for some reason you say, I don't want the discount, I don't want the savings, you can always just sign that card, go on colonialpowergroup.com, or give us a call. We'll opt you out of the program. One of the things that the manager wanted to make sure is free opt-in and opt-out.
If I could just interject, that was actually one of the provisions of the RFP that we did through Old Colony Planning Council that caused us to choose Colonial Power Group as the vendor of choice to administer the program, was the free opt-in, opt-out services, actually, was so that it wouldn't cost the Abington residents any money if they wanted to opt in and opt out, so that it wouldn't cost money, because of the statute as it's written. It is, whether we like it or not, it's an opt-out.
And they can do it anytime they want.
Anytime they want.
Yes,
Many times as they want.
yes.
I just want to state one thing. We can only, because of the way the utility works, we can only opt you out on your meter read. So the meters here in the Northeast are old meters. It's what we call a dumb meter. So they read the meter at the beginning of the month and then at the next meter read, and it's just the difference so there's no way to do it in between.
Right.
So if you call me after you get your bill, I can't opt you out until 28 days later when your meter read.
Which is when you'd opt in or out.
That's
And
correct.
That's when you do it. You wouldn't, yeah.
Exactly. The utility doesn't let us do anything different. But if the following month you wanted to get back in, you certainly can do that.
So you could compare your prices and make a consumer decision. That's the point. But again, that's one of the reasons we chose Colonial Power Group, because there's no administrative charge to make an informed consumer decision. You know, you wouldn't eliminate the, we'll say, the goal of being a conformed consumer by opting in or out.
Correct.
You wouldn't have an administrative charge to do so. So, anyway, continue.
Yeah, Mark was on a roll, Rick.
I know, I'm sorry, I screwed this whole thing
No,
up.
no, no,
didn't I?
not at all.
Sorry.
Not at all. I really want it to be interactive because I really believe
Yeah, but not with me.
once you get informed, I think aggregation's a winner.
Sure, well,
Always your decision.
yeah.
But let's just say that he made his choice, 1 year contract at the 11,057. It's about a 13% savings over the first 6 months. If after 6 months, for some reason, you're unhappy with the program, simply call us, go online, opt out, no problem. No one's going to try to keep you in the program. Again, when you're calling us, we're not the supplier. We work for you. Town's hired us to work for you. So this rate can't go up. There's no, it's a teaser rate or something like that. Three months from now, the rate's going to go through the roof. If everyone stays in the program, the rate stays at 11,507. Doesn't make a difference. If everyone leaves the program stays up and running, NextEra has to offer that price of the 11,057. So at least from my standpoint, when I take a look at what the town has offered, I think to myself, if the town offered you the ability to have lower taxes for the next year, but you could opt out if you wanted to, how many people would do it? You would. I'm just saying to you, that's what they're basically saying is because.
I'm sorry.
That's what I'm saying to you. So they're basically saying to you, you don't have to pay the higher fee for electricity. But if you say to yourself, I'm uncertain, I just want everyone to know, this has nothing to do with the power going out. This is nothing more than a financial transaction. Let's just say NextEra went out of business. The lights wouldn't flicker, wouldn't do a thing. You'd automatically be returned to basic service, and that would be the end of the program. We'd have to go back out to bid. But under no circumstances are the lights going to go out or service going to be any different. From your standpoint, this program addresses the electron. If you had a problem with your bill, you're going to call National Grid. If you had a problem with your meter, you're going to call National Grid. Power goes out, you're going to call National Grid. So for the 90% of the interactions you're going to have, there's still your distribution company. You're still going to get one bill. The bill changes ever so slightly, the way National Grid does it. This happens to be my bill from the community I live in Marlboro. They actually run a program. And the only difference, real difference, is your bill's on 2 pages, and it just says whoever the supplier is, it's TransCanada and Marlboro, and the Marlboro aggregation. That will be the only change that you'll see. On the front page, they break out the energy with another column. Still the same price, it's just broken out a little bit different. And I'm happy to walk anyone through the bill, but really you're not going to see any difference at all from the end user's standpoint, other than a little bit lower bill. I wanted to just tell you about a little bit about the procurement, just so it puts your mind at ease. In 1997, because of deregulation, Massachusetts Electric, or NGrid, had to sell off all their generation. They no longer are in the generation business at all. All they do is buy energy on your behalf and pass it along to you. Believe it or not, the winning supplier on your bid also wins basic service for National Grid. So NextEra bids on that wholesale load. So interesting enough that it's just, that's how they see the kind of the market going, so that they started to get into the business up here. How are we able to get better pricing? Who would have a better load than National Grid? Well, National Grid by law is a service of last resort. They get to go out to bid 2 days a year. With aggregation, we get to use all 210 trading days a year. So advantage aggregation. We get to use every trading day that we want. National Grid's hands are tied. They get to go out in March and buy 50% of their needs from May 1st through April 30th. They go out again in September for their needs from November 1st through October 30th. And those overlapping 6 months, that's your price. And that's how they calculate your price. But if you happen to know the markets at all, the wholesalers know the exact date that they're going to go out, and they normally get their margins. So if you follow the electricity markets at all, fairly opaque, so not easy to do, but probably get a mill or two run up the days that they're going to go out, and then it comes back down. Because they happen to know that there's hundreds of millions of megawatt hours being put out to bid at that time. So, a town like Abington, you go out on an odd Wednesday or Thursday, nobody knows, bid goes out, no spike in the market, advantage aggregation again. As well as smaller suppliers. Now, small supplier didn't win this load, but small suppliers don't have the capital to bid on basic service. But there are other smaller suppliers that I think you'll see as aggregation expands and matures that are going to drive down costs because they don't have the same cost that NextEra has. So they're able to do things a little bit cheaper. So again, this time it appears to me you have a very good time because NextEra is looking to grab some load to, I would say, to fill out their portfolio of generation. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I wanted to have it interactive, so I think I've hit on all of the salient points for aggregation, but I wanted to answer all of your questions that you're going to have. So if you have a question, just raise your hand. First one up, go ahead.
Oh, hold on.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We want to make sure that people are there.
Sally Jesse's got a comment.
Yeah, I'm going to.
Sally Jesse Real in the audience.
Phil,
These red glasses.
No, the camera's not going to be
All
on,
right.
just a microphone. Name and address, please.
Kathleen Ross, 394 Rockland Street. So is this rate guaranteed for 1 year or 6 months?
The town's rate is guaranteed for 1 year, will not change. From your November meter read right through your November of 2018 meter read. It's a 1 year contract.
All right, I have another question.
But-
So you, but
Go ahead.
what? But what?
No, go ahead.
But National Grid's going to change, is what he was going to say.
That's the 6 months. That was my
Okay.
question also.
Okay,
So National Grid's rate changes, and we don't know what that is
it could go down.
until March. I expect it to go down slightly, but there's a thing called capacity that's gonna keep it higher than it has been the last few summers.
Okay. So you stated that 90% of the time, if I had a problem, I'd still call National Grid. What's that other 10%?
If
When
you didn't like
wouldn't
the
I?
rate.
If I didn't like the rate?
If you didn't like this rate, you'd call us and we'd get you out of the program.
So, okay, so if I have a problem with power and I call National Grid now, they come out and don't charge me anything. Is that the same thing that's gonna,
They
or?
charge us all a lot.
Well,
It's the
but
distribution
you
cost.
know what I'm
That's no
saying.
extra charge, that's correct. That all stays the same, ma'am. All
Okay.
stays the same.
And my last question, I think. If someone is already enrolled in an alternative energy, do
Yes.
they have to opt out?
No.
Okay.
So,
We have to opt in.
time out. So if they were to receive
They
this
don't want
mailing,
this. Yes.
if they receive this mailing, I would say opt out. And the reason I'm gonna
Alright.
tell you is,
Okay.
National Grid gives us the information. It's utility grade data, though. They could have a mistake, and if somebody has a competitive supplier and they've received this mailing, please opt out so that you don't get switched. I've had it happen numerous times. I'll simply call whoever the supplier was for them, let them know that this was an aggregation and what happened, and we can get you right back in without fee or penalty. Customer's never harmed, but it is a problem, and it does happen probably to less than 5 customers on most aggregations.
One last question. If someone were, let me think now how I want to word this. If you didn't opt out now,
Yes.
if you stayed with National Grid, no, wait, if you stayed with National Grid, could you opt into this program sometime during this year?
Absolutely. So I'm going to state, I'm just going to run through the scenario. Let's say that I'm not comfortable. I sign the opt-out card and I'm out. 3 months from now, you're like, whoa, I just don't want to pay the extra cost. A simple phone call, or you can go right online at colonialpowergroup.com with your electricity bill. On your next meter read, you'll be right in the program.
You can opt in or out anytime you want. Any other
On the
questions?
meter read. Yes, sir.
Bob Johnson, 42 Wilson Street in Abington. You're basing that 13% on National Grid's rate.
Winter rate.
Now,
correct.
I go online, I look at all the rates, and I have a lesser rate than you
Yes.
are proposing right now.
Correct.
So why would I be in the
So,
program? I mean,
so-
I prefer it that way myself personally.
Yeah, and that's what I think is great about aggregation. So let's say that you don't want this rate, but now you realize that you have choices. You can go out there, and there are lower rates.
Right.
But I'm going to tell you this winter, they're going to change on you. So just make sure that you're watching your rate. And the one thing I'm going to tell you about, and I think it's wrong, and I think it's been changed recently, but in our world, a retail supplier knows once they sign up a customer, it's 2 months before they can get out of that situation, because until I see my rate, so let's just say I got a rate of 2 cents a kilowatt hour. You get 2 cents for the first month. That's a 1 month rate. The next month they charge me 15, but when I see it on my bill, now they've charged me 15. I want to get out of this. No fee or penalty. I call them up, I still got to pay for that month. So they got you for 2 cents for the first month, but then 2 months at the 15.9. I'm not saying that there aren't good deals and solid and good suppliers out there. Just be careful and keep an eye on your rate. That's all I'm saying. Because this program, this rate won't change. Guaranteed it will not change. And those rates I've seen rates as low as like 9.5 you can get for the winter.
Yeah, I've seen it too.
Yes,
I'm at 10, so
yeah, which again is a good rate.
it is a good rate.
It is a good rate.
I look again, and there aren't too many out there at 10 anymore, so.
And that's because, and that's what I'm saying to you, once National Grid gave their rates, even if they own the energy, they're gonna bump them up on you. Because the alternative is 12.
Hi, Joyce Gunter, 644 Plymouth Street. I didn't receive a mailing. I do have other than National Grid. Now, how do I go about opting in?
So you're gonna just wanna call on your bill. There's gonna be a supplier on the back page from National Grid. There's a 1-800 number there. You're gonna call them. You're gonna ask if there's a fee or a penalty to leave your program. If there's no fee or penalty to leave your program, thank you very much. You simply go on our website and you can give us a call. The number is 866-485-5858, extension 1. That person will take your name, number, and enroll you in the program. You won't need to do another thing. So National Grid is nothing more than the housekeeper here. When you sign up with the program, it will automatically send a drop to whoever your current supplier is. It's that simple. I just want you to make sure there's no fee or penalty to leave your program. Other than that, you can join the program without problem.
Sue Coyne for East Street. My question is, I haven't had a chance to go online to look at the Next Era website yet.
Yes.
I'm curious, it looks like it's a wind source company, is that right? Can you just give us a little bit of background on the company?
Absolutely. Hadn't got there yet. But so in actuality, what that means is there's no way to get a direct source unless it's solar panels on your roof and you have the right meter. So how the Department of Public Utilities says you can call your supply green is you buy this financial security called a renewable energy certificate. And what the Next Era has agreed to do is purchase renewable energy certificates from wind projects out of they're not in, they don't happen to be in New England, but they are Oklahoma and Texas when the wind blows all night long. So what they're doing is procuring renewable energy credits for every kilowatt hour used.
So the plan that the town is enrolled in is 100% green, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Which means
21% of it is part of RPS, that's the Renewable Portfolio Standard, meaning just brown energy today in Massachusetts has to be 21% renewable. And then the other 79% is covered by renewable energy credits. And just to give you an idea, if you were to match that up against National Grid's green energy, they charge you another 2.4 cents. So the difference would be like a 31% savings compared to National Grid's green up product. We were matching kind of apples to oranges here because we're saying basic service compared to this green product.
I like sitting out here better. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Name and address, please.
Dale Ann Awald, 640 Summer Street. This is sort of off task with the subject. Okay, so National Grid provided your company with my account number and information?
Yeah, so National Grid, are you a basic service customer?
Yes.
Yes. So National Grid, after the town signs off on a contract, we'll supply everyone's mailing address because we have to get that mailing address and account number out to you so that you get to make a decision. That's correct.
Okay, so the town. So National Grid gave out. They're the ones who initiated.
National Grid gave it to Colonial Power Group, not to the town. We
Not
don't.
to the town. That's correct. And just so that you know, it can't go to anyone but the supplier in an encrypted format. So the only one that's allowed to do that is simply the utility to us, and all we do is pass that on to the supplier.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Any other questions, please?
Ellen Coe, 22 Brookfield Road. So what happens a year from now in November 2018?
So, and more likely than not, it's going to happen long before that, but we will sign another contract when the market says it's time to act, depending upon how the manager feels at that time. Like I said, we Monday morning quarterbacked this contract, meaning we knew exactly what National Grid's rate was going to be before we acted. There are certain times that there are holes in the market that I may approach the manager and say, if you're interested, this is where we're at. He may decide to act or not act, and that's what I like about aggregation. Town's choice. They get to choose how long of a contract, what color the energy is, so forth and so on. I'm here to help. I'm in the market every day. But at the end of the day, it's the choice of the people. And they're bringing you a choice. I know some people don't see it as a choice, but I think when you think through it, it truly is a choice that you didn't have last winter, because without the program, everyone's paying 12.6.
Right. So we might stay with this company that they're choosing for this time, or they might choose to pick another company.
And you can ask the manager. So I will bring him.
Wait a minute, that's an awful lot of pressure.
No, I'm saying to you, but we'll bring him 5 or 6 different suppliers with 7 different terms on at least 4 different products.
Wow,
I think,
okay.
I think the point is if there would seem to be an extremely good opportunity within the market for buying energy, the consultants would come to us like they would with all their customers and say.
No question.
Now is a really opportune time to get a better rate structure, maybe more than for a year, maybe even for 2 or 3 years, and then we'd have a conversation about it and decide if it's time to strike while the iron's hot.
But you would probably try to keep the same opt-in, opt-out at any time
That's
for
the
the
law.
people.
That's the law.
That,
Oh,
just so you know, is in the plan.
yeah.
And anyone who bids on it has to abide by those.
Oh, okay.
So the next contract, 2, 3, 4 years from now, everyone has to abide by that. It's in the plan.
And that's
Okay.
approved by the Department of Public Utilities. That's not gonna change.
Oh, okay.
That's
not
correct.
gonna change.
Okay. 2 other questions. In my mind, who are the 14 other towns in the same collaborative?
So right now, and in case I'm missing anyone, but right now, who are working, it was all the OCPC towns, but the towns of Plymouth, Kingston, West Brookfield, Abington, West Bridgewater, and I think there's one more, Plimpton,
Oh, okay.
have all signed on. They
Oh, but
all
you have others in
contracts.
the works.
That's correct. There are other people that are a little bit behind the curve, but those people have actually signed contracts.
Okay. And what was that number that you call in order to opt in if you are already a other
So
purchaser?
on the sheet that people would have received for the opt-out, but you can always call Colonial, and Colonial is at 866-485-5858. There's also a number you can call next to error, and I apologize, I don't know that, but if you go to colonialpowergroup.com,
We have some handouts here, some fact
Oh, you
sheets that
do?
have the
Oh,
number
okay.
and website, if you'd like to grab one either now or before you leave, so you don't have to write it down too, if you'd like.
Okay.
and Colonial Power Group has all of this information and a whole lot more on every single town, and it gives you basic service rates, gives you the town rate, tells you the term, so forth and so on.
Okay. I think that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think we have another question over here. And I'd like to make a note, too, that you said our contract's for a year. We had choices, or Rick had choices, for 6 months to 3 years contracts, too.
And it was a fairly obvious choice, again, and I don't claim a lot of credit. This was an obvious choice recommended by the consultant too, the not having the green energy decision, not making the green energy decision was such a negligible other option, and I know you saw it too, Ken. To be able to get a green energy option at such a low price was really a no-brainer, you know.
I had done the math. It was about 19 cents a month
It was a no-brainer, so.
on 600 kilowatts. Yes, sir.
Alan Ross, 394 Rockland Street. And when Old Colony Power Group goes out to bid on rates, you mentioned that they bid on, they get a rate and they get terms. So some of the power companies or suppliers would have better terms than another?
That's correct.
And who benefits from that, and where does that reflect in the bill?
So it's not Old Colony, but it's Colonial Power Group. We go out to the marketplace, and there might be 7, and there's those other rates weren't accepted. The only rate that was accepted was the next era 1-year rate with the National Wind product.
So where do the terms come into play on this? Because sometimes you can benefit monetarily from, if you have better terms. Is there a discount in the terms of payment, or is it?
No. So it doesn't quite work that way. But I'm going to get into the weeds with you for a little bit. National Grid has a program. It's called POR. It's Purchase of Receivables. So what actually happens is National Grid guarantees payment to everyone 72 days after power flows. So basically what happens is there's a small markup. They pay, it's actually, I'll give you the exact figure, it's 98.214% of what you are actually due. So if everyone here paid and it was $10,000, they would really send $9,800 to the supplier. But that's the program that the utility pays. Every supplier agrees to those terms and conditions from the utility. So regardless whether we all pay or not, they're only going to pay 98 cents to the supplier because of purchase of receivables. But that's a great thing, because now the supplier doesn't have to worry about collections. So National Grid takes care of that for us. But there are no, if so many people pay, 30 plus 4 or what have you, none of that. None, just purchase of receivables, and all utilities are required to have that. And everyone has their own, so every utility has their own purchase of receivables discount. Does that make sense? Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions from the audience? No, thank you. I'm sure the Board of Selectmen have more questions, because I have some more. And believe me, we've been asking Mark lots of questions. He's slated for 10 minutes at our meetings, and he's usually here for at least a half an hour. So.
It's good. I mean, the questions are good.
Yes, thank you.
No, they're very good, yeah.
Any questions?
Robert Manning, 34 Orange Street. How do I know if I have a competitive supplier?
So, on your bill,
Yep.
your National Grid bill, you'll have 2 pages,
Yep.
and on the back page, it's going to tell you who your supplier is. So it's going to say electricity supply. It normally would say basic service.
Okay.
If it says basic service, you're on National Grid. If it says competitive supplier, right above it is going to have who the supplier is, and by law, they have to have a 1-800 number on the bill so that you can call them and get in touch with them and talk about their program.
And if I am currently being supplied by a competitive supplier, I did not receive a index card from,
You should not have received.
should not have received.
Should not have received one, that's correct.
All right, so those of us who are not basic suppliers would not have received a card saying you are in this.
That's correct, because you had already made a choice, and this program's only for basic service customers originally, but anyone on competitive supply can join at any time.
So my next question would be is, and I think I heard you correctly, is if I am with a competitive supplier and I see on page 2 that I am, and based on your question, if I call them and they say, there's no fee for you to opt out, sir, you just have to send us a written notice, or you have to log into our website and log out.
Yes.
I can then contact you through this 866 number and log in and opt into this program.
That's exactly
what I wanted
correct.
to. If there's a fee to opt out, it's my decision to pay that fee to opt out or not to pay that fee to opt out.
That's exactly correct. And the one thing I would say is, so this is what I like about aggregation. So now you have a couple of choices. So you now know the basic service rate. You know what the town's rate is. You call up your supplier and you say, hey, listen, I got 11.057. You want to keep me? You got to beat it. If they decide to keep you, stay with the supplier. No different electricity.
If they're willing to.
If they're willing to. And if they're not a problem. But now you have choices, where before,
You had no choice.
you had no choice.
Okay.
Alex, you have any questions?
No, he's answered all my questions.
Tom?
Yeah, but no.
Oh, same here.
I have one concern, and I think you kind of touched upon it a little bit, is 6 months from now, National Grid's rate is gonna go down.
Yeah, it will go down.
They always
Yep.
have in the spring and May, I
Yep,
think.
it will go down. I agree.
Now, we're banking that it's not gonna go down below what the rate we're paying is now.
I think it's gonna be right around there. Yes,
Okay,
agreed.
all right, so we can, I would suggest everybody look at the bill in May, or call National Grid and ask what their rate is, because, you know, I'm opting in.
Yes.
I have to opt in because I have someone else.
Yes.
I'm paying 11 something. And I'm concerned that in May, the rate's gonna go down less than this, is 11.057.
And that may happen. So here's what I'm going to say is, over the term of the contract, I'm almost certain if you stay in it, compared to basic service, you're gonna save money. But if you wanted to play the game, and you certainly can, you can give us a call. Believe it or not, the rate will be known for May at the end of March. So the second Wednesday in March, National Grid will go out. If you'd like to call Colonial or go on our website, as soon as that rate's there, there's gonna be a link to the basic service price. We'll update that rate so that you can look and know ahead of time and opt out of the program prior to that May 1st start.
This made me think of another thing, because you said, could we call, say I opt in, and in 6 months, I know National Grid's rate is going down, could I call NextEra and say, can you match the National Grid's price? Because I'll be one of their customers at that point, correct?
Correct. So,
I'm sorry, to save a buck,
it's a great question. You can't be in the aggregation, but that doesn't mean they can't offer you a private contract at that rate. You absolutely could do that, but your best bet is not to call the aggregation number.
Right.
Because they're only gonna offer you that rate. But to call NextEra and ask them, absolutely.
Okay.
Why not?
Yeah. Okay. Now, one of the benefits of this program too is your bill's not gonna fluctuate as much as, we all know that, you know, it goes up and down. You're paying the same rate all year long, so your bill's gonna pretty much stay the same, unless you use a lot of air conditioning and the summer, that sort of
And
stuff.
some people, if you have electric heat, you use more in the winter. Some people use more in the summer. They might have a pool and air conditioning. Just, everyone knows their consumption, or probably do, just from a bill standpoint, they go, geez, I get killed in the summertime.
But anybody who's getting National Grid bill, you know, wow, that bill went up. You see it all of a sudden, it's November bill or December, it's like, whoa, what the hell, you're yelling at the kids, what are you even on? Any other questions, you may have some more questions, they may have come up? Oh, no, you have to wait for the mic, I'm sorry.
Put the TV on her.
I mentioned Sally Jesse, and I'm showing my age here, because nobody remembers Sally. Oh, yeah.
Everyone remembers Ken.
So at the end of the year, the rate may change, may not, but if it were to change, is the town going to publicize what that change would look like?
So the next, I'm saying the next contract rate?
Right.
So what happens is we normally try to get the rates to the town. Our website will change, the town's website, and I don't know if you use here like a Facebook to push information out, but the goal is to make sure that as many people as possible. Unfortunately, the law doesn't require that a mailing goes out, but that doesn't mean that the manager doesn't tell me, I want a mailing to go out. It'll be a slight cost, meaning it would be in the rate, but we could send it out.
From the town's website?
Oh, we could obviously publish the websites, and
Yeah.
easy to publish on the website, that's not a.
But I'm saying if you wanted a mailing to go back out to every customer, we can
Even
do
the
that.
sign at the down here.
Oh,
Right, right.
That would make perfect sense, yeah, yeah. It'd be a little tacky putting it on the sign, but certainly putting it on the website would be.
We could also
Yeah.
announce it at a selectmen's
Be proud of
meeting
our
and
project.
town meeting and that sort of
Tonight
stuff.
only would be.
and certainly the select board will know what the rates are, so forth going forward, no question about that. Yes.
That's a good idea, Ken.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I really don't have a question, I just want to make a statement that National Grid has already increased the delivery price. The delivery price has gone up.
That's
'Cause I
correct.
noticed the minute my bill went up, I knew something was wrong.
It was in
And that's
March.
exactly what they did.
That's correct.
They increased the delivery price.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Just so you know,
Sneaky.
that requires them to go in front of the Department of Public Utilities, and it's what they call a rate case. And it's a big deal, and believe it or not, they received $101 million in the last time out.
Any other questions?
Oh, Ken?
Oh, sorry.
Who do we contact if we have any more questions?
So I'm happy to give you my card. If anyone has any more questions, from a standpoint, you can call me directly in the office.
Yeah, we can maintain their contact information on the town's website too, to make it easy.
But I have my card, I will give it to you on the way out.
But if,
Okay.
But if anybody watching this on TV has any more questions, please send them to the Board of Selectmen's website, or
Well, again, you can, we'll maintain contact information on the website, and you can always contact the Board of Selectmen's office for contact information.
if we don't have the answer, we'll
get it.
get
Right.
it.
Some of this is, especially if they're industry-type questions, obviously, we'd have to refer them to, Mark.
And if you go on to colonialpowergroup.com, there's a spot that you can ask a question, come directly to us, and I can promise you'll have an answer within 24 hours. During the week. During the week.
There you go.
I hope everyone feels a little better about, and I'm glad you folks came, and people watching on TV, please, we're gonna show this as much as we can. If you have any questions at all, we're not making any money off this. As a matter of fact, everybody at this table is gonna save money, and everybody out there is gonna save some money, I think. Except if you got a better rate, then please, stick with it. I know a woman out there said she has a better rate, and God love you, because I kind of been looking around to try to get a better rate, and I didn't lock in at the right time.
I don't think I mentioned, giving the average consumer, the Department of Public Utilities says use 600. Kind of a feel good. It would, on average, if you use 600 kilowatt hours, the difference in rate would save you about $9.70 a month.
Yeah, it adds up. Anything else? All right, well, I'm gonna, we're not really in session, are we? Yeah.
Well,
I'll
it was
entertain-
posted.
All right,
You
so,
open the
I'll make
meeting,
a
Mr.
motion to
Chairman.
close the meeting.
all right,
You
motion
opened it.
made, second, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you again for all coming, and if you have any questions.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yep, I'll stick around if anyone has any
Good
questions.
stuff, good questions.
And the good news